Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in Space Engineers, continuing on with our Survival Series number 2. And what I have done here in the off-screen time, put a few things together, finished grinding a little bit, and then started conceptualizing. So I consider these more like proof-of-concept models. Um, So let's start with this one down here. Obviously, things like refineries, and I'll try and keep the sun out of your eyes. Um, Refineries need upgrade modules. Now, yes, they work all fine and dandy by themselves, but they are a bit slow. So, what I wanted to do was one of the things about the EZO upgrade modules, which are these funky purple modules that you see on the screen. Um, EZO did an upgrade module. There's actually two of them, and EZO, if you're out there, forgive me for mispronouncing your name if I have. But EEZO, so I'm not sure how that would be pronounced, but EZO. I'm doing it EZO, so forgive me if that's not the correct. There's two different versions. There's the upgrade module, which is designed and intended for either refineries or assemblers, or there's another module that actually does all four functions, which is to say is a shield module as well, energy shields module upgrade as well. So I use this quad function module, and what I wanted to do here, which is why this is, I consider a proof of concept, these are double-sided modules. So how can I utilize these double-sided modules so I'm actually using all of them? So this was about as efficient as I could figure out how to do. The interesting aspects here are that the shield generators, which you see one above and below the reticle there, obviously 8 of the upgrade modules in between, and then a large shield generator and a large shield generator above and below the reticle. So basically that's this center here. Let me back off just a hair so you can see what center actually is. So there's center. Turn off the HUD for just a sec. So the interesting thing about the shield modules is you can have up to 16 upgrade modules, which is really to say 8 on one side, 8 on the other side. Now, utilizing a double-sided upgrade module means I'm going to sandwich these suckers in between and then put them on the outside. But how could I utilize the outside? And because I still have to do my refinery section, how can I put together the refinery section in some way to take advantage of these modules? And so what I came up with was an idea of basically sandwiching my normal shield grid application onto a refinery, which happens to be the same size as the large shield module, or the large shield generator. So this is kind of what we have. So we have, and sorry I got the sun in your eyes there, we have the shield generation, the large shield generator, another large shield generator. We sandwich a set of 8 upgrade modules in between. Then we put upgrade modules on the other side of each one of these, and then because there are 8 ports on the back of a refinery, then we just staple a refinery onto each end. We connect these together as you see here. So I'm going to turn sideways. So obviously proof of concept, these would be plumbed in really on the red side if we're carrying on with my conventions of how my systems typically work. So this is all on the refining side, which basically is pulling directly out of the raw materials. So basically the pull-in storage, these would end up plumbed in off the pull-in storage. So what I was thinking is, how do I use this space effectively And what I was thinking is to kind of have a industrial area, but utilize that industrial area in a reasonably efficient manner and actually build a landing pad on top of it, because why not? I mean, it's a way to utilize um, that space that would otherwise be nothing effectively. So what I did here was this is leaning towards. Now I wouldn't have to do that because this obviously is not. Refineries inherently are not airtight, and because they're not airtight, then creating an airtight environment around them it doesn't really matter. So in this case, I put an armored connector into the deck because I just wanted to seal it. But again, this is more of a proof of concept. We would most likely have a vanilla. There you go. Vanilla coupler in the bottom here. In fact, I guess I could kind of do that. Let me go ahead and put this on white. Now, again, this would most likely be a pull-in connector. So I'll go ahead and put a red connector into here to designate as a pull-in connector. So this proof of concept as it is, obviously, if I made these as an assembly, then the only challenge is how to put either conveyor in between, or is this indeed my template, and I paste these things end to end for however long I want to make them. So anyway, proof of concept here. I wanted to kind of think about how could something like this go together. Obviously, I need to build a shield assembly, and how can I best utilize? So I could either do refineries back to back with this with a module sandwiched in between, but then what do I do with that? The other side is, do I stack these too high and then continue? I mean, how do I want to do this? Do I put a landing pad on this side and a landing pad on the other side? Because after all, space, there is negligible gravity in space, at least not that's going to affect a ship. So there is no upside down or right side up. I could park a ship just as easily on this side as I could by putting a pad down here and flipping the ship upside down relative to this thing, of course, and going from there. So anyway, proof of concept, discussion, thoughts on how to best utilize those two functions. So what I did off screen here, and obviously I can't show this to you, is wrote down what functions am I going to need. My first on the list was storage. So while I haven't entirely finished with storage, obviously I have storage modules, so that one did get marked off the list. But ultimately, sorting, and sorting is a thing all by itself, which would require a space to do that. And the sorting mechanism, obviously, I'm going to have to at some point attach in the red conveyor system, which is to say the pull-in conveyor system. We need shields, so that's another item on the list. Refining and assembling, which is really production, right? And then a hangar bay. So the things that we need on this particular station, and what I didn't write down was solar power, because that's going to happen. You're in space. I think every space station is going to have a certain amount of solar power, because there's no clouds in space, or rather, there's no clouds in space engineers' space. So I want to be able to take advantage of having that full radiant sunlight working with my solar panels. So anyway, onwards with the proof of concepts. So I like the stairs. And where am I going with all this? So let's start at the beginning. I need to rework this thing. And this thing was the original Christmas tree chopper to the base. And what I want to do is take a similar style, similar concept, and stick this, at least this portion, on top. Now, here's the challenge. I have, whether it was arbitrary or not, come up with the convention of a 5x5 grid, which ultimately is my 3 independent conveyor systems and now 2 independent elevators. Why 2? Redundancy is really the bottom line there. And yes, I understand this is Space Invaders. Space Invaders. There you go. Which is actually not far from the truth. I'm getting ahead of myself. Space Engineers, I am known for over-engineering, and being that we will eventually have the corruption PvP mod turned on, then we need some redundancy. If I want to get up into the tower or into maintenance areas, then ultimately I'm going to need a little bit of redundancy. So that's why I ended up saying, okay, well, let's put in 2 elevators then. All right, having said that, how do I redesign everything, and what can I do to redesign this thing? Now, I like this one with the built-in vanilla stairs. Now, the problem is, how do you create the landings next to this 2x1x1 staircase? And the problem here is you end up with a 4x4 grid. What's the problem with the 4x4 grid? It doesn't match anything. That ultimately you're going to be offset one way or the other. So even though I like it, it is limited. Which is really to say it's too big versus the space I intended to use it in. So proof of concept is great, but it really does not work in the grand scheme of things. So this is unfortunate, but it is still the reality. It's the reality of what we got. So here's what we're going to do with this. We're going to change back to the Tiger Orange, my standard Tiger Orange. We're going to put this here. Why did I put this here? Because I want to go in here and transfer this to me. So now we'll create this as an ownable block, and I'm going to call this stairs 4x4. So it's a staircase, which I can then save into my parts and pieces. My parts and pieces thing. So what I've discovered is that little flashy, most of the time, if I do a save, it stops, which is the other proof that this is a game bug. But I'll stop right there. All right. So let me back off of this. We'll do a Control B, which will hopefully stairs 4x4, which you see over here. So now that has taken that into the world, which is into my blueprints database, which is exactly what I want. And we'll do a Control X to get rid of that. The other proof of concept here was kind of a variation on the theme. I needed ultimately a 3x3. A 3x3. Okay, so we do kind of the same thing. We come up and rather than, now, one of the options was to use the slope block, which obviously is a 45-degree angle. And I was thinking, well, that's all fine and dandy, but let's be a little more creative, a little more, use a little bit more ingenuity, and put in these basically shutter windows kind of a thing, and we'll pretend they're a staircase. Now, here's one of the problems I think we're going to run into this. How many people actually have the patience to run up all these stairs? Obviously, these stairs go all the way to the top. This happens to be approximately the same height as this thing here, but obviously the heights are variable, so we can do whatever we want. We're building. Other than this piece here, which I like, but maybe I will go ahead and rebuild it from scratch. But I haven't decided that I'm absolutely going to do that yet. I like this, but ultimately I have to get the elevators into that, which may or may not be very difficult. In fact, I don't think it's going to be very difficult because effectively I'm going to take the glass off and chop out one block here that goes up in, and then that becomes my elevator port. So I don't think that's going to be really hard at all. So I could just revamp this top portion and then rebuild this section here, this middle glass section. So in here, you're flying up. No question there. There's nothing in there except for that center conveyor, which is in fact in this as well. So it is there. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do, and the question is how to do it, is to put in air vents. And the problem with air vents is all the air vents are actually going to be on the outside here. So the only other thing that I could technically do, which may actually be a good idea, so let's go ahead and we'll keep the proof of concept going here. We'll change that one out. So we'll effectively change out all the ones that go to the air vents, which is really to say the elevator air vents. So there's that one there, which we'll go ahead and change out. And then we'll go upwards, and there's another set at the top here. So we'll go ahead and swap that one out, and then there's one more here. Okay, so what effectively am I doing here? 6, there they are. Is to so we're gonna do that there, and one there. So what I want to do is keep those out of the way of my transit areas, and this one may actually be in the way. So I'm walking up here, may actually be in the way, which means I might be able to put that there. And again, this one in the way, but the other one not in the way. And then down here, that one's in the way, but that one is not in the way, and can put that one here. All right, so we have air supply inside the elevator and outside the elevator. Okay, so the idea here is that if somebody walks into this space, it is pressurized. Now, whether it's pressurized effectively, Space Engineers unfortunately takes on a little bit of a planar interpretation of pressurization. And what I mean by that is I can be standing down here and everything is fine, and I go up 2 levels and all of a sudden there's no air. Well, this is a space. I mean, this is all the same space. So if there is a way to seal this space, then I should be able to pressurize this entire space from top to bottom because it is a singular open space. You know, yes, this staircase twists and winds around inside of it, but it is a space. But because Space Engineers kind of approaches pressurization on a planar level, I can actually walk to a different level, and even though there's a hole there, it looks at that as being different. So it's an interpretational thing, which, oops, okay, well, that's just the way it is. So in this case, I think this is going to be plenty. although I may, you know, maybe it would be a good idea to add, um, so I have an odd number in the space here, which, you know, I skipped 2. Do I skip 1 and then add another level above? That may be prudent because, after all, whoops, sorry. I like tall buildings. So if I were to make this even taller, then would that aid in the creation of this top portion? Obviously, it'd be a slight bit taller, but you know, is that a good idea? And maybe so. So effectively, let me go ahead and mirror here what I would otherwise be doing. All right, so we have or do I put air vents every other to be every 4? Every 1? Another possibility, I guess. So the other thing is to look up here and see how things have happened. And as you can see, this is one off from one another. The reason why it's one off from one another is this this spiral is oddly enough is coming around apparently faster than what the other one came around, and I don't know why that is, but they looked off from one another. So this one ended up with a single block level difference, and I don't know if that was, I don't know why that is. It just it was that way. It's the way it looked. So I guess if I were really to make these all, oh, and I'm out of power. If I were to get these ready for the proverbial cut and paste, then in fact, let's go ahead and do that. We'll charge up so I have enough to run my grinder. And I apologize if you hear rain and thunder outside. It's because rain and thunder is outside. One of the aspects of living in the sunshine state. Har har. All right, so we conclude on that particular level there, and I should be able to grab this thing. So if we look down here at the bottom, we have the staircase, or the angled window. So let me turn that off. We're going to do a Control C, and then we're going to zoom to the top, and let's roll this out from us just a little bit to make it a little bit easier, and then we're going to paste this on the top. Or I thought I was going to paste this on the top. There we go. Nope, it did not paste. So I'm not sure why it didn't paste, and it may be because of the elevators. So with that theory in mind, let's go ahead and we'll take that off, and let's take these two bottom ones off, and see if we can make this thing link in. So X, which puts that up there. All right. So apparently it was the elevators that were causing that. So basically we have picked our cut and space place. As you can see here, the surrounding box the bounding box here turned green. I'm touching where I want it to, so when I press left click, it will in fact paste this entire thing together, which it did. Okay, so that having been said, we're going to go back out here and we have our filler. So we're going to paste in a filler and a filler, and we're going to do the same thing on this side, paste back in our filler and filler. And then what we need to do at this point is take the proverbial step back. Let me go ahead and shift sides. And determine here how we're going to do this. So, okay, so we have event, and then we're going to skip one, and then we're going to put event here, which is really to say we're going to put get back onto that particular screen for we're going to put event here, and which means there and there. And 6 and 4, which is so this is every other one. So there's one there, there's one there. In this case, we have one here, and then there's going to be one. Oh darn! So I actually put this in the wrong place. Oops. So it actually should be here. So that was my bust. But well, actually, yeah. So let me spin this around. So it's going to be right there. So that's every other one. This one is going to come out, and then it's going to go there. This one's going to come out and go there, and then this one comes out. Okay, now having said that, you're all laughing at me because it's all like, well, you just doubled the size of this thing, so you're way above your Christmas tree topper anyway, and that is absolutely true. So we'll figure all this out as we go, but the concept here is that in this case, the ones on the opposite side here are in fact lower than the ones on the other side. So this one actually goes away. And let me go ahead and do that. So that one's gone, and in fact that is gone. So the challenge here is that I put the various pieces in, and then I removed certain pieces, so that one has to go there. We change here, so that goes there, and then there will be an air vent here, and there will also be, in this case, an air vent here. So I need to put there and there. I think. Nope, I am incorrect. So neither one of these go here. Oh, missed it. Okay, so up. So this one and there, so that's in the correct place. And ultimately, I will need a vent there. Okay, so let me fix this vent here and here, so that is correct. So I will need a vent, air vent there, and an air vent there. And then these all go away. So that one, and technically we would have air vent here. So here with the air vent there, and same thing here with this, and an air vent there and there. All right. So, and I think we have now, yeah, we're kind of above where we'd be anyway. So let's put all this back together. So let us start with the air vents. So we know these are lower. So every other one, so there's an air vent there, and an air vent here, which should ultimately be the top. And then, oops, not on that side. That will be on this side. Air vent there. We should skip one, have another here. Okay, so we're there, and have one there. There we go, and one there. Okay, so we should have 4 and 4, which is good. All right. Ultimately, we probably ought to. Okay, let me go back to here, and I think. All right, this one is here. So this one is not actually here. So that should be that. All right, so hopefully I have connected from top to bottom. All right, what did I do? Okay, that was here, so that is correct, which means I've got, yeah, so I just, so under, over, under, over, under, over, and under, over. Okay, so we're going up to this height up here. So let's let me fix all this down here. So back to toolbar number 8. We have our filler here. So what I'm going to do is displace all of the places where there needs to be vents, and we'll get it down to the point where we just have vents. So there's a vent there and a vent here. So this is we're filling in this space, and then we have a vent there and a vent there. We fill in this space, get rid of that. I think we fill in that space. So there'll be a vent there and a vent there, and then there actually is no vent here, but we do need to fill in the gap. So we actually are putting those in there. We have a vent there and a vent there, which is true and correct. I think. All right, then we have to figure out what our actual height is. Where do we go? Where is our top? And I think our top is in fact right here. So I'm gonna break this here. In fact, let me just because I'm gonna grind all of these things, and the reason I'm going to grind these things is because I like collecting parts and pieces. And this gives me the opportunity to do that. Figure out where is my limitation, where are we stopping here, and I think, where did we say we were stopping? Where did I start grinding it? Wow, that does make it quite a bit taller, doesn't it? But I think we're stopping here. At least it looks like we're stopping here. So if that's the case, let's go ahead and take off this, this, and this, and this, and we will in fact go upwards from here, just like we did on the other side. On our spiral downwards. And I apologize if I'm making you dizzy. I'm right there with you. Oh, what happened there? All right, so we I think have air vents. So let's do the side-to-side check. So every other one, all the way down to the base, which is true. Let us shift side, so that one is on the lower, and get the try and get the sun right behind there. So we have the lower and the upper. So upper, every other one, gone, it's there, gone, it's there. Okay, so those are pretty good for now. Now, we used convention down here, so we're going to ultimately have to use the same convention again, and apparently I failed to mark these things. So this side is elevator shaft number 1. And that continues on through this. So ultimately elevator shaft number 1 is going to be right now relative to my left side and my right side. So the reason I do this is that I want to paste in these things in such a way that I can actually identify what they are, name them, and then have this as a pre-configured piece. Okay, so as I'm building this, I'm trying to be intelligent in how I'm building this. So let me get back over to my F8 toolbar, which is these things here. And we actually want the filler vent. So what I'm going to do here is paste in these filler vents. These are the elevator shaft filler vents. Spin it around the right way. So this is going to be the A vent, the B vent here, the C vent here, the D vent, which should be just about the top, which it is. All right, so now that I have pasted in those 4 sides, I know that is shaft number 1. So we have these 4 filler vents starting at the bottom because I pasted them in that order. These guys, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so the very first thing we'll go ahead and do, so obviously that's all there is. I'm going to take possession of these things and do the yes. So we're starting at the bottom. Now, whoops, sorry. So vent 6. If I remember, I called these air vent, air vent, elevator 1. And then what this thing is, which is station top, in this case, A. Okay. So this is elevator 1, station top. There's only going to be one station top, so normally I would designate this with a 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. But we're going to designate this as a station top because there's only one station top. Then we'll go from there. So that was a shift home, which highlights the whole thing. We do then a Control C, which is a copy, which will save us a little energy here. So this is the second one. That's a Control A, a Control V, and this is a B. Control A, Control V, and a C, and then Control A, Control V, and a D. All right. So, like I was saying before, we're going to just put these into a group called air vents. And the reason why I have this global group called air vents, everything that's in the group air vents for me is a stock vanilla vent. Okay. And everything I use that a little bit loosely. In the case where I'm trying to focus on vanilla builds, air vents is a standardized build, or a standardized air vent. Okay, vanilla air vent. In the case where I'm using other types of air vents, such as Digi's conveyor air vent, then I still call those air vents. So I kind of lump everything together. And the reason I designate different is I want all of the elevator 1 air vents to be a separate group, or the elevator air vents being separate from my regular air vents. And the reason why is if I'm troubleshooting, I need a way to figure out where those vents are, or where they were supposed to be, rather. Okay, so air vents, save. Turn it off on the toolbar because I don't need it, and turn it off in the terminal because, again, I don't need it. Okay, so we see that these shifted over to the shadowed, which is because I've got the hidden blocks turned on in this case. So we'll go ahead and turn those off. In this case, I think, and we'll have to look. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. We'll look somewhere else where I know I have an elevator. So let's go ahead and look down here. And I could actually look in any of these, so let's do that. We'll look right here. We'll bring up a K, and it says air vents elevator. Okay, so, or elevators rather, air vents elevators. So plural and plural. So we're going to use that same convention. Why do I use the same convention? Because if you merge two things together and they have the same group name, then all of those blocks will just simply merge together in a group that you access together with that same name. Okay, so it's a merging of groups, which is exactly what I want. I want this to be reasonably painful painful, reasonably painless for whoever decides to build this and then needs to figure everything out and maintain it all. All right, so here we go. So this is elevator 1 side, so we call this air vents elevators. So plural. Okay, so save, off on the toolbar, off on the terminal. Boom. So we have our two groups here. These groups will both merge into the other groups of the station, which are named the same. So all of my air vents will then belong to a group called air vents. I will be able to access all of them, not just the ones that were on the station prior. All right, so having done that, we still have to put in the air vents on this side, the elevator air vents, and these are all, of course, if you remember, they're going to be, oh, not that one, this one here, which is the air vent filler, and we're starting backwards. So let's go ahead and just be conventional so I don't confuse anybody. So we'll go down here to the bottom one, which is my A vent, and work my way up. So there's another vent. We should have 4 vents. Oh, darn. That's what happens when I'm... All right, air vent. I will not vent. And air vent. Yes, I will vent. Okay. Block. Block is green, which means I can build here. Okay? If I press the left click, that block will be built here. Now, if I was in pure creative mode, I would just left click, boom, it's built. If I'm in survival mode, which I am now, but I have Space Master turn on, I left click, boom, it's built. If I am in survival mode with Space Master turned off and I click here, if I have the proper materials in my inventory, then this will build in the stick figure and I can go on from there. So I have something, now I can weld it, right? Okay, blah, blah, blah. Everything that everybody knew already. So let's look some more. What does this mean? And it's kind of hard to see, so let me move it. Look at the red portion. The red portion here. So the red portion means if I right click, it's going to delete that. If I'm not Space Master in survival mode, it's going to do absolutely nothing. Right click does nothing, okay, which is sometimes a good thing. Here's the issue. The item that the reticle is pointing to is what will be deleted, regardless of the fact that that box is red. Okay? Now, let me try and demonstrate. And of course, it won't ever demonstrate when you're... Willoughby's Law. The machine will always work when you're trying to demonstrate. It won't. Okay, anyway. Let me maybe demonstrate this in another way. Okay, well. So the problem is, for example, you can't see it right now, but this block, this armor block here is what is highlighted in red, and unfortunately those little metal rails around the edge are hiding that. You can kind of see it here in the corner, just slightly bit. But so the reticle is pointing at that. The red box is there, but there are occasions, it doesn't happen often, thankfully, where that red designator, which is what I look at, it's visual, right? It's on your screen. If you don't have the reticle on your screen, you can't even see what your reticle is pointing at. So you're dependent upon this red box to say that's what's going to be deleted. But the problem is, it's not the red box that's deleted. It's what the reticle is pointing at is what gets deleted. And that's absolutely constant and absolutely consistent. So the discrepancy comes in when the reticle is pointing at one thing, but the red box that's highlighted is pointing at something else. You click, right click, because that's the highlighted block, and oops, you actually deleted the other thing. So here's the rant. Number 2 is, I want to say the global fixture shit, but there's no purpose to have the red box if that's not the box that's being deleted. Okay? So move the red box exactly to the block that's going to be deleted. Always, always, always. How hard is this? Okay? If this is the box that's designated by the delete function, then it should be really easy to highlight that, because that's the box that's already been identified by the delete system. Rant number 2 on that is, why the fuck do you not have an undo function? This is the only game I have ever played that does not have an undo function. What the fuck? I can't count the number of times, the sheer level of frustration where I have accidentally deleted something, usually because it deletes the wrong block, and disaster ensues from there because it deleted the wrong block. So if I just had the ability to do a Control X or a Control Z or something and undo the last fuck up, that would be simple, right? But no, Space Engineers has never implemented an undo function. I can't even begin to conceptualize why. Or why not, really. Okay, end rant. On we go. Delete this. Actually delete it. All right, so we have those 4. 0 to get that off my screen. We go back into our configuration control, do a K. We're going to highlight these guys, and you'll notice those are nobody, nobody, nobody. It's because I'm building in Space Master mode or creative mode. Creative will do the same thing. We will re-highlight. So let me go ahead and do the everything here. We're going to transfer to me. Yes. All right. So everything is owned by me, right? We're going to turn those off. Remember, I started at the bottom, and this oopsed in some way. I don't know why that did that. Oh, that's because it built a whole bunch because I was moving. All right. Control A, V. Hopefully that will still be there. Yes, it is. We're going to back up a little bit because now we're talking about elevator shaft number 3, and this is A, right? Okay, so backspace 1 to get my cursor where I want, shift and home, which is going to highlight all the way back to the beginning, and I do a Control C to copy that. This next one is B, which is a Control A, Control V, and a B, and the same thing with C and D. All right, so we have all of these guys here. We click on the bottom, or shift click to highlight all 4 of these, and then we do a Control left click, which will now highlight my group, and I do a save, which will now save all of those into that group. Turn them off on the toolfig. Toolfig. I'm going to truncate that for you, and then off on the terminal. So we now have these 2 groups, the air vents that were in there and the elevator air vents. Okay. So as a proof of concept, this guy is nearly complete. Okay. So the only thing that I could technically do different would be to really add some sort of airlock. So the question is, how do we effectively do that? Now, here's what I always try and do. I want to mirror this. Okay, so how do I do that? This is a 5x5, or let me caveat, is to say this appears to be a 5x5 grid. Okay, it's not. Okay. This is actually a 7x7, and the reason I say it's a 7x7 is the window, this outer window, is on the outside. Okay, it's actually stapled into the outside. Why did I build this base the way I did? Because I need, this window has to have a mounting point. Okay, so the window is actually mounted here because it's outside, and it goes all the way to the top and ends up on the edge. Okay, so that's why this is the way it is. It doesn't actually butt up against this because this is not a pastable surface. It's not a bondable surface. So this actually goes all the way to the top. Now, this is facing down, this window here, so it prevented me from being able to, normally I would put like a plate, or I might even put like, so let me you see this piece off to the side here. Um, let's go ahead and flip this around how I might actually put that if I could put that right there, which is to say on this surface here. But because this is a window here, which is why it's highlighted, I can't actually put that there, which is why I don't really have a mounting surface. So I would either put something like this, and the downside to this particular block is that it's not a mounting point. So if I were to put a plate, so a plate on here. Whoops. Let me get the right Cat 1 plate onto this corner where the reticle is pointing in this case. Then it would actually provide a mounting point to the window that's underneath it. So if I did that on both sides, then I would actually have two mounting points for that window. So in this case, while it doesn't appear, and here you can see the highlight, see how this red block, the red box, the bounding box of the window is actually on the outside of this presumed 5x5 space. So this is actually a 7x7 space. So where and why is that important? Because I'm actually going to, and I'm going to cheat a little bit because I'm going to put it on the outside here. Actually, I take that back. I'm not going to put it on the outside first. So I'm going to use the 1x2 windows. These are the flat windows. I'm going to make sure that they are facing where I need them, which they are. And then I'm actually going to build two sets of these guys. So one up each side all the way to the top, which in this case is here. So we're going to go up one more right to there. All right. And in fact, we're going to do the same thing on this side. Is it? Yep. So what I need to do is reverse, and then we're going to come down. So I'm going to go slightly to the side and then come down. All right. And on the front of that, I'm going to select my my 3x3 window, and then I'm going to go up the face. That's going to be a problem. Oh no, it matches. Look at that, it matches. Awesome. All right. So I guess we do the same thing. We're going to come down. Okay, so if you look at this, it still appears to be a 5x5, right? We're 3 wide right now, so but bear with me. So it looks like a 5x5, but it's actually a 7x5. So let me do the same thing again. Let's put a block out here in the front so we can see it. And look at that. So there's my 7 width block, but it appears to be 5. So I basically put windows over the outside of the elevator there. And here's the same. So the only thing we have to do is create the whatever it is, this space on the outside here.
Energy low.
So the interesting thing we don't really have a mounting point because unfortunately so here's what we're going to do. We go ahead and get to number 8 and pull in our filler. Okay, so we're going to put in one block, which is the bottom of the elevator shaft, and we're going to do the same thing over here. And in fact, let's go ahead and fill in the spaces up here. And I'm just going to do the one. I have not yet figured out what to do as far as how am I going to get up to the next level. Okay, so ideally would be an airlock. And I just have to figure out how to do the airlock. So I'm going to leave this upper section alone for the instant. But we will figure something out here. So let's go back to the bottom. Where am I going with all this? So let's have a look at this base. Okay, so it's all sloped, but it's using the standard 45-degree blocks. So I have my access here, so I slope, and this was a medical bay, so the slope is hidden back here because I put stuff out here. So the medical bay was out here. We don't need a medical bay here, but what I want to do is recreate this thing as it was. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab our blocks, and we're using, in this case, light armor blocks, and I'm going to do the planer. So let me go down here so we can see how this plane is going, and we're going to go ahead and do, in fact, out to 28, and then we're going to do the same thing on this side. This is just giving me a base to work with. We're actually going to do some chopping on this in a moment. Okay, so what did we do here? We created, in fact, it looks. This is a visual misnomer, but it looks to be, in this case, deeper than it is wide. It actually isn't. So we have 3 blocks by 3 blocks, right? 3 blocks here. We have 3 blocks here, and we have a block in the center. Okay, where the elevator shafts are. In this case, there's 3 in between. So the 2 elevator shafts would make 5, plus 2 more would be 7. So this is actually, it's a visual, it's an optical illusion here, but this is actually a 7 by 7. And the reason it looks silly is because I'm at an angle. So if I were to go right under it here, it would start to look a little bit more square. Okay, so all right, and so the first thing I want to do is change this to be a little more accurate to how this was. So we have this this corner piece. So let's go ahead and paste in that corner piece, and that corner piece actually is gonna help us out a little bit. So we brought up our light armor block here, and I'll change that. But the first thing we want to do is we go to black, okay? Because we're doing the tiger theme here. So tigers have black stripes, most of them. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. The other thing we want to do is get onto the slope, right? So let me go ahead and turn this sideways and get it facing the right way, which happens to be this. So we're going to paste one down, and that's indeed the way I want this to go. So I'm going to go all the way to the top with this, and whoops, that one. All right, so there's the first one here. We'll go ahead and paste backwards here. So like this, we'll go down almost all the way to the bottom. So there's the last one, and then we'll put the last. Oh darn! I put it in the wrong place. Oh, maybe not. Just for whatever reason. All right, so chop that off. Continuing on around the proverbial circle is to put these guys in here. So this is this one. I'm gonna actually planer in a different direction here, which hopefully will keep me out of trouble. And then put the final one on the bottom, which is there. And then this last one here. So putting these particular blocks in is actually going to make my job a lot easier when it comes to the windows on the side here, because I can just paste them right on. We didn't actually have a point in which we could paste this outer window, and we're going to change that. All right, so you see there's the base in here. This has the access point. So how do I want to do that? Now ultimately this is below my plane. Excuse me. So the trick is, how are we going to put these in here? So in this case, I need a way to get into this lower planar area, and in also in this case, it means I have to go down. Yeah, so I'm actually going down a little lower than I needed to. Sorry, let me turn and look. Nope, my my access is actually one block below, so we'll go ahead and do that. Now, why am I going offset? Because I've got this. My conveyor system comes in right there. So if I were to actually come in, which I can, and I'll show you why. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and build it identically to the last one. I was going to do it offset because it would just make my life a slight bit easier, but we're not. We're gonna come straight in and just deal with it. The reason I'm balking here is because keep in mind, and let me go ahead and put the hole here. So this is already physically connected, so I don't have to worry about anything. So if I hollow things out here, then I'm not going to mystically magically break anything. Okay, so here's the reality: is this becomes this and this, right? So this guy is sitting in the base of the tower here. And my thought process is I want to be able to go straight in and be able to loop around and go up, right? So one of the things I need to do here is hollow out the rest of this base portion here. So let me go ahead and do exactly that. And here's kind of the problem. Is how do I effectively come around this corner? So if I carry convention, I've got this particular block here. So let me go back to, I think it was number 8. Yeah, it is. So let me go ahead and take that block out. We'll go ahead and leave this block over here in the corner because there's no reason to do anything else. But this guy is like.
Energy critical.
Okay, it's actually facing in the same direction. So in fact, let's blow that. So that one goes away, and because those are all connected, let's just go all the way across. Yeah, there we go. This is here. We in fact put a big block here. Oh, but it doesn't want to go there. Why does it not want to go there? Because something happened.
No energy.
Never mind. Because that's an angled block. That's oops. Okay, that was a me. I'm not looking at the screen. All right. So if we consider here coming down to this plane, which is to say this base, which is kind of invisible right now, if I put in my doors directly onto here, then I'm going to go directly into this staircase. So if I put it in the center, I'm going to go right onto the staircase. Okay, there's no point in that, right? So what I really need to do is put an airlock here, because then I just walk straight through. The airlock on the other side, it doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and put this airlock. This particular airlock is going to be offset, and it's offset because I really can't put it in. Obviously, if I put, right, okay, I open the doors and I go headlong into a staircase, no fun. So not very practical and not very fun, and you, in fact, can't walk through it. So we'll do that there. We'll change colors back to the black because everything on the outside is black, my tiger black. And we'll do that there. What have we effectively done here? And I'm going to go ahead and add some blocks back in here because why not? Because okay, so I'm going to put those blocks back in here because these are the ones that the windows actually are going to be up against. Okay. So bear with me. We will actually make some sense there. There's going to be a window right here. And then there's going to be another window that takes advantage here. So let's go ahead and just for the fun of it, put these in. Now, y is, I'm at 0, so that can't really help. But with the window here, now you can't see them, but there's actually windows there. Okay, so there's a window right there. And let me prove that by running face first into it. Okay, I'm running face first into it. So we have set up the boundaries of this particular space, which is a 3x3 grid. So likewise, there is a window right here. Bing, bing. Okay, window there. In this case, because this side is completely open, I'm going to put windows here. And we should match. So 9 is my window, my menu. I have black highlighted. Nope. Okay, I do. I'm okay. You can see the green. It's hard to see, but you can see the green. So we're going to go all the way up with the windows. And we go right to the top, which is exactly what I want here. And down we go. All right, I'm going to hold off on putting this last window in, and the reason for that is I'm still working on construction. But what I wanted to demonstrate is now you see this box comes in, and we have now created a boundary. So when we walk through this inner door, then I am into this space, and I can turn left here and go up the stairs if I want to. Okay. Now, here's the other trick. I'm not putting a gravity generator in here. This is a space station. And this is the upper portion of the space station, so there's not going to be a gravity generator, which is possibly going to be a little interesting. All right, so what is this? This is the sliding door station top, okay, just like we called it before. Airlock 1, and this is the inner door. Right? Okay, airlock 2 is going to be on the other side. Why did I call this airlock 1 versus the other? Because there's really no differential here. It's arbitrary, but okay. Closed. Now, one of the things you'll notice is nobody. Okay, the reason it's still nobody is obviously I'm kind of in creative pacing mode, but I'm going to go ahead and close that door. We'll get around to actually taking possession of all these later on. Station top, this is airlock 1, and this is the outer door for airlock 1. Alright. Now why didn't that close? That didn't close because I have no power attached, right? Everything is red. Alright. So, okay, let's go ahead and consider for a moment. How do we build this thing so basically the only place you can go is up? Conventionally, I tend to like to have things centered, and in this case, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go headlong into this conveyor, but that's okay because there's a space there, right? So if I'm really being creative, then this is either a very obvious stairwell, or we can delete this box, put this box, and in this case, I'm actually going to put, let me go all the way around. I'm going to put this in. And then, we're going to do the light armor blocks here. We're going to put in this case, doors. Okay. Now, ideally, so we can see, and let me go ahead and just kind of demonstrate here. As I walk my engineer through, yes, I'm going to hit this 45-degree angle, but ultimately I'm going to be just kind of pushed over this way. All right, so then I go over here. So one of these, by function of where this particular ramp came down, if the ramp came down on the other side, I would be all right. So oops, I actually goofed. So this is kind of an engineering fix. Ideally would be to have my 2 elevator shafts where they are, and then my staircase twisting around in the correct direction. And oops, I didn't. I unfortunately, nothing I can do about that. All right. So one of the other and I want to call this kind of an aesthetic thing, is, so you see this angle here. I'm going to move this angle forward. Now, it's hard to see as to what that is. This is going to be an armor block here. Why did I do that? Let's go up and look. Okay, so I have effectively created a static tunnel that is going to push my engineer off to the side and head to this other door. Now, I could have saved myself all of this hassle by simply, and you know what, I think I will, just because. Just to be consistent in how I want to do it. Yes, I could leave this door here, and effectively it's going to be in the center, but I think we will just not. Okay, so light armor block, light armor block. Then we will put a door here, which will ultimately come out into this passage, which goes right straight across to the other one, so there's no restriction. I don't have to turn sideways, I don't have to do anything, just boom, right here, and then I turn right and head up the stairs. Reverse the door. We're going to change the colors because we're black on the outside, and paste. All right. So, what do we do next? Well, my OCD acting up here. I want to rename the doors. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. This is station top. This happens to be airlock 2. Why is it airlock 2? Because arbitrary. I've got one over there. I've got one over here. So I named that one 1. So this is named 2. This happens to be the inner door. Now, why is it important to understand what the inner doors are and what the outer doors are? It really isn't, unless you're a little bit OCD like I am. Then it matters. So, play it how you will. All right. This one, station top, airlock 2, and this is the outer door. Closed. Closed. Now, we're going to do the same thing again. You can turn this off, or you can leave it on. Doesn't matter. Here's the caveat. If you have blocks hidden that are not assigned to groups, they have not been highlighted. Let me say that again. If you have blocks that are not assigned to groups, and you have hidden blocks turned on, then you have not highlighted them. So if I'm globally highlighting everything, and I want to make sure everything is, in this case, owner transferred, then the best thing to do is to turn off your hiding, which is to say, click that I button, everything will highlight, even if it's not assigned to a group. So occasionally you will, oops, turn things off that you didn't mean to turn off, so they're now hidden on your terminal, and you'll never find them again unless you go into that hidden blocks area. So, and that includes things that you might want to highlight and transfer ownership. Oops, I've done that, which is why I'm mentioning it here. So in this case, I've highlighted everything. I've absolutely made sure I've highlighted everything by turning on the show hidden blocks. Transfer to me, yes. Okay, then I can turn this back off. Now, what am I doing with these? These are sliding doors. They're vanilla sliding doors. Okay, there's no reason for me to highlight these, so I create doors groups sliding. Okay, so here's the concept behind that. Is my base is under attack, and I might have doors that are inside the scope of the base, which means they're inside pressure areas. But I want to close all the doors and lock them. Okay, so here's how I can do that. I can configure my terminal to have this group on the terminal, on the toolbar for the terminal. And I have 3 buttons, right? I have open, close, and toggle power. So my base is being attacked. It's being invaded. So I hit my close button, which is going to instantly close all the doors in that group, which is to say all of my sliding doors, right? Then I power it off. That way they can't even hack it. It's turned off. No hacking. So that doesn't prevent them from hacking something that ultimately will allow them access in and then turn the doors back on. But in the meantime, they have to figure out how to do that. They have to figure out, oh, I've got a group somewhere. So in the end, they're going to have to grind down the door. So you've slowed them down. Maybe, just maybe, one of my buddies can grab their gun, their weapon, and head over there and kill them as they grind my door. So anyway, that's why I do that. So doors sliding, which will be a good designator, and it's a common group to all these things. So even if I join this thing, paste it on to another block that has these, or the station as the case may be, as I'm building everything, then this group will simply merge with the other groups of the same name, and boom, I'm done. So what do I want to do here? Closed. Okay, so all of my doors are closed. Take it off the toolbar and off the terminal. All right. Oh, it just says it's going to stay open. Don't know why it's going to stay open, but oh, that's because they are open. I have no power, so it defaults back to what they are. All right, so we are really just prettying things up at this point. Now, if we look over here, we have these nice slopes, and I do appreciate these slopes. So I'm going to duplicate that over here. And so what I want to do is we're going to go ahead and bring this back up. We're going to go into inverted corner. I've already selected black. And so we're going to get rid of that particular thing, and you know what? I'm gonna make life a little more simple for myself. And what we're going to do is we're going to go here to the center M, and we're going to click on the blue plane, so we're mirroring side to side, right? And then N, and turn that back on. And the reason I want to do that, so we're going to go ahead and delete that again and then repaste it. That way I actually pasted it on the other side, and I'll show you. So really, I'm only going to build this once, and that's the idea here. So we put in the block there, put in the block there, and because we are mirrored, we put the blocks on this side. So continuing on. Delete, delete, delete. In fact, let's do it over here. Delete, delete, delete. We're going to put block, block, right there. And the next thing we do, paste in, is this block. So this block goes here, here, and here. And I think this one is different from this one here. Yes, it is. So what I actually did was created a 45-degree angle at the outside. So rather than doing this like we did here, we actually created 45-degree angle. So that one stays there. Okay, if I delete that one. So delete that one. So let's, sorry, we'll go the other way. So 45 degree. In fact, this whole side is 45 degrees. So, okay, that one's going to be fine. Darn it. Delete, and then delete. And the what I mean by fine is this window is actually attached onto the elevator shaft. Okay, so it is attached on to, that's its attachment point. So the reason I got away with deleting these without this whole block of windows going whee and moving away is because they're actually mounted onto the elevator shaft. So that saved my butt over there. We'll do the same thing here. So obviously just reverse around this way. So there we are. All right, and then let's finish up with how we're doing it here. So in the end, oh, sorry, that was number one. Rotate this sideways again. This piece here, we're going to put the corner piece here, which is where we want that. We will also put the corner piece here. I know that's a little bit hard to see with the sun in your eyes. This piece happens to be this is the right one. So we'll put that one there, then we'll spin this and put this one here. And what we have effectively created is this where you can see this offset. So in this case, my offsets are on the cardinals, where you can see these slopes and everything, and there was a medical bay here, which is now over here. So if we really wanted to be creative, we could actually put a medical bay here, which was what was in this case over here. So we used to have a medical bay that was sitting right here, and in fact on this side we had the medical bay that was here. So let's just for shits and giggles, let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and put a medical bay here just because. Okay, and the downside to that is now I need some methodology. Actually, you know what? I can't do that. And the reason I can't do that is my mounting point. So here's what we're going to do. We need to paste our windows in. So let me get the window and get it facing the correct direction. Flip it around. So it's hard to see, but it did turn green, and my mount point is now this block down here, which you see is pointed at the reticle with the red highlight. So technically, if I were to click on the delete, that would delete. But we don't want to do that. So let's go all the way to the top, which means I'm pasting glass in if I don't actually freeze first. So there's my glass. Now, ironically enough, I was going to put the second layer in, but because of the way I backed off from center, it actually added that second layer of glass. So the second layer of glass actually got put in the one move because it was planar, right? So, oops. Now the attachment point is actually this block that I'm pointing the reticle at. So this is a very important block because it is holding this outer group of windows on, and that's what I want. Okay, so now we have to figure out what are we going to do at the top that ultimately will give us some methodology of adding all this in, which is really to say, how do we connect this thing up top to that? Okay, so here's what we're going to do, and we're going to do this by virtue of convention, and I've gone way over time again, and I do apologize for that, but because I'm halfway through the hour, I'm going to continue. So again, apologize. For those of you who download videos, just download it and push the pause button. Thankfully, YouTube videos you can also pause, so even if you're viewing this by streaming it, by all means just push the pause button and come back later. So sorry about that. As I am notorious for doing, I got going, and I got going. Oh, and of course I don't have any power. So we're going to do a couple things here. we'll go ahead and dump off all of these materials, and then we will back off one and add in power. Okay, now, something worthy of discussion is do we create access all the way around? What do I mean by that? We have this base, and let me, because the base has holes in it. So we have our two elevator shafts. Obviously, the elevator shafts are a thing, but we could put doors here, and in fact we could put doors here with a hallway through. So we could have doors on all four sides of this if we really wanted to. Is there any reason to do that? I don't know. It's arguable either way. I like the idea, this is a station tower. These are airlocks. So this would give a convenient methodology of somebody coming in and, oh shit, I'm out of oxygen, I gotta get inside. And, oh, look, there's an airlock. So no matter which direction they're coming to the station, so no matter which vector, they're going to see this airlock. So there may be some advantage there. So with that in mind, even though I already named this, we're going to rename. So the one on the far side there is called. Let me go ahead and turn this back on the terminal. And here's where I'm going with this. If we look way down there, there's that glass junction, is what I've called this, glass junction. My elevator 1 side, why did the elevator number 1 shaft get called number 1? That's because when I labeled everything, the airlock, or rather the door that was on that outside portion on this side, so where the reticle is pointing, okay, so if you see the reticle, you see the hideous pink connectors there, that's airlock 1 side, which is also elevator shaft number 1, okay? That's how it got named. So it was arbitrary, but I picked that. So here's what we're going to do. Because shaft 1 and 3 on this thing are in fact shaft 1 and shaft 3, let's go ahead and do that as a convention. So what does that make this door? Okay, this door in fact becomes door number 4. So airlock number 4. Oh, yeah. So this one becomes number 4. And by virtue of position, I did it again. I did it twice. This is number 2. All right. So airlock 2, which is on the far side here, this is airlock 4. So that means if we put a hole through right here, right? So we have, let me go ahead and change colors, and we're going to put the doors in, we're going to name the doors, or rather we're going to take possession of the doors and then we're going to name them. All right, so, excuse me, there we go, turn that off so it's not flashy. Okay, so this is the inner door, right? This is the outer door, and two of the things we're going to do, let me go back to my grinder. We're going to grind this one off because we're going to change this to an inverted corner, and we're going to change this to an inverted corner. All right, and we're going to do that on this side as well. We're going to put the doors here, so This one's going to go away, this one's going to go away, this one's going to go away. Now, why did I put the door here? Is it to be symmetrical? And the answer is kind of yes, but it's also because, there we go. It's also because I create this hallway. Above here is the stairs, right? So I really don't have another choice. I can't put it over here because I run into the exact same problem I did on the other corner, right? And what's now the number 2 door, originally the number 3 door. So, oops, I don't really have a choice there. All right, so 6 in this case, 6. Oh, sorry, 8. That was a 9. I pushed 9. I meant to push 8. We put our door in, and the door, this is where the door needs to be, right next to the elevator. So I got to turn it around the right way, or rather make sure it's facing the right way, which is that, and then we'll put the door in here. Yes, it's the wrong color, and we're going to fix that right now, in fact. We're going to go ahead and paste the blocks in that we need. That's not going to affect me, which is good. Let me go ahead and turn off mirroring just because. And I want the inverted corner, but I want to make sure I rotate the corner around the right way. So there's that one. And here is this one facing the right way. And then at the same time, we're going to recolor that door to be the black outer door. All right, so again, let me do a Shift F5 and it didn't stop. There we go. Now it stopped. So I've correlated. If I grind, then that flashy starts, and I don't know exactly why that is. So here's my doors. Okay, so now this is door number 3 in this case, and we'll in fact, let's go ahead and name these. So let me use this. Let's see. All right. So in this case, I need to figure out what door I'm on. So I exited out K to go back in. So this is door number 9, and then I'm going to paste. This happens to be airlock number 3, and this is the inner door. Okay. So what I'm going to do is change a few things because everything is called sliding door. I'm going to recopy, so I'm going to copy to really where I need to be. Okay, and then this is the door that I want to communicate with right now is door 10. So I'm going to paste in my airlock. This is airlock number 3, but it is the outer door, right? Okay, so now I have the inner and outer doors. Now I know door 7 and 8 happen to be the ones on the other side because I paste the inner one first. Then I can go ahead and rename this as appropriate. So this is now airlock number 1. This happens to be the inner door. How do I know that? Because I created that one first. Okay, I pasted that one into the universe first. So this one is going to also be airlock 1 outer, right? All right. So we know this is inner outer. There's no power, which is why these are still open. And we want to do 2 things here. We're going to paste, and then we're going to change the color there. Okay, so we have created our angles how we wanted them, which is great and fine and dandy. All right. Just to verify, we're going to do a K. This should be inner, right? Which means this one will be outer, right? Outer. Okay, here's what we have to do, and we did it before. Turn off hidden. Click on anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Control A, which will highlight everything. Transfer to me. What does this say? This says, "Are you sure you want to delete this?" So, are you sure you want to take ownership? Yes, absolutely, I'm positive. Turn this off. Okay, we had our sliding door group, which isn't working. Sliding doors, okay? Why are only 2 sets of them highlighted? Because that's the ones I use to create the group, right? So what I could do is highlight these other 3 and then, or these other 4, and then add them in, or I can do a click on one of them, shift, left click to highlight all of them, control, left click to highlight the group, and then save. Okay, so that group is now created, as well as I just added those other 4 doors in. So now we have all 4 airlocks in here. We're going to toggle just to make sure, and we're going to go ahead and turn those off on the terminal. Okay, so to check those, they just disappeared. They're there. All right, so we have pretty much created this lower piece. Now, there's a lot of things that we can do under here, which is really going to be based on where am I pasting this whole thing. So let's go ahead and do a quick save. All right. Now, having said all that, I'm going to watch my time a little more closely. Now, one of the advantages of doing what I did here is I'm going to delete this. I'm gonna mow through this. So that becomes an important consideration because I need to put this somewhere. And here's how we're going to do that. So you noticed I started to grind, and instantly those little strange shadow things started. So let me go ahead and put all these things into this mystical, magical, elsewhere container. We're going to go 0. We're going to attempt to get that to stop. Great, it did. And now we're going to back off just a tiny little bit. We're going to do a Control X because I'm in Space Master, delete this whole thing. And we're going to go right over to this new base. We're going to do a Control V, which is a paste. And then we're going to stick it onto that right there. Okay, so what is this? The block, let me back off and try and demonstrate. See, the block that I originally did the Control X, the delete, that my reticle was pointing to, and this is something that disappeared for a while and then came back. Let me paste this, and so you notice I'm pointing to a particular block. Now, why is this important? Because in the pasting, so let me do a Control X, which is a delete, right? You want to delete the selected object, a copy will be stored in the clipboard. Yes. Okay, so let me paste that back into the world, which is a Control V. Okay, why is that important? Now, one of the things you notice is that the very same block, almost in the same position, in fact, the very same block that I'm pointing the reticle at. Give me half a second. Sorry, I wanted to save coughing in the microphone there at you. The very same block that your reticle was pointing at becomes the rotation center for this group, the grid that you have just pasted into the world. Why is that important? Because if I use any of my rotation keys, it's going to theoretically rotate around that block. So you notice that block stays in one place. So in this case, I'm going to rotate this around. This is the way I unpasted it from the world. And what I want to do is paste that block. I just got too close. I want to paste that block onto a specific block. It happens to be this inverted corner block. And because the inverted corner block I can paste up against that, I'm going to place this battery up against that. So this is a useful technique when you're trying to paste stuff back into the world. Point it at the block that you want to become your rotational center. Doesn't always work because rotating, cutting, pasting is bizarre in Space Engineers, especially when you get into the very large objects. And unfortunately, it's an interaction because of another stupid thing that space engineers do. Rotation is not static. Okay, rotation, what the different rotate keys do, it's not always just rotate counterclockwise around the z-axis, rotate counterclockwise and clockwise around the x-axis. The axes change. Okay, why the hell somebody thought it was a great idea for these to change, I have no clue. But somebody thought that was a good idea. So rotation then becomes a function of where your character is relative to that block. Why the hell is it relative to anything? Nobody knows. Well, no, I think nobody knows. Okay, nobody thought, again, the developers don't play the game, so they're probably not even aware. Okay, so it's green. It says everything is good because it's butted up against another block, another grid. It's going to merge the two grids. Now, what did we just notice? All my doors just went green. Okay, how cool is that? All the doors went green, which means I have power. All right, let's go ahead and go into K. You'll notice we have the battery, which indeed we do. We have the elsewhere container. Yes, indeed we do. We have the reactor. We can actually rename this to something else. And we have our medical room here, which we can rename to something else. But here's what I want to do. Here's my group. I'm going to say close. Now, notice all 8 doors were open, right? Okay. Highlight the group, click closed. Yeah, I mean, we could see the one on the screen here, but so if we look inside, you can see that door closed. But hey, let's go around and look. Hey, look, that one closed. Oh, and that one back there is closed too. So this is the power of groups. I press close once and every door that's in that group closes. Pretty cool thing, huh? So now, one of the things that I could do if I really wanted to, because I've offset here, I end up with this strange looking, it looks like there's a hole in the slope. And kind of there is. And if I wanted to do this a little more conventionally, then what I might do is change these corners to be a little more highlighted. So we could change this, in fact, to a regular block, change this to a block, change this to the inverted corner, change this one to the inverted corner, and then add the corners here. So we could do that. This one I thought looked really cool because of the fact the doors were in the center. So we had this broken up slope, but in the end we have a couple flat surfaces, but we have flat surfaces that match, that mirror one another, in fact. So this surface mirrors this surface, this one mirrors this one. So it worked. It was reasonably aesthetically pleasing. To me, this looks bizarre. And even though by practice it's the same, it's because these doors are offset by one block, so I've really messed with my symmetry. So what I think I should do, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on, this is going to be interesting. We're going to do this again. So I'm going to make sure I'm highlighted black. I'm gonna grind just because. Now here's what I've done, which may or may not be a problem. Let's go ahead and try. We're going to make this a block, so a light armor block. Okay, it's gonna let me paste it. Oh no, it didn't. That is a corner. That's a slope. That's a block. Okay, there it is. All right, now here's what I'm going to do for a second time. Control X, which will delete. Yes, I want to delete that. Control V, paste it back in there, and highlight. Okay, why the hell it's doing that, I have no idea. Let's put it out there. Sorry, the grinding thing. Okay, Control X again, and let's see if we can make this work. in ways that make sense. There we go. So sometimes you have to back off, repaste it into the world, so it's away from the grid, so the two grids are not interacting anymore, and then force it to interact in a so right now our two grids have synced, right? So even if I move this away, the grids are still synced. Oh, they're not synced, but now they're synced. Okay, so I'm lying because Space Engineers is, hey, Space Engineers. All right, so here's what I want to do. So you notice I just changed this to a solid block. This here becomes my corner template. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this block out, and because normally I would grind, but I'm getting tired of the flashy in my face. So let me go ahead and turn on mirroring. So we're gonna do that one. This one also becomes a solid block. This one becomes an inverted block. Okay, an inverted corner, and I'm going to rotate that around to match there. Okay, so what I have effectively done is revised my symmetry. Okay, so I'm symmetrical again. Now this one is a little bit hard to see because it's not here, but what I want to do is so I want to delete this block and this block. In this case, I've got the piece there, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And I may have just screwed myself with the door. On the block. Yes, I did. All right, so turn this off. Oops. But thankfully, we can add this back in pretty easily. Now, one of the things to remember about this particular door, so in this case, let's go ahead and turn the hidden off, highlight again, owner to me, yes, and then we can turn this off. We have this sliding door 11, so let's go ahead and put all of our doors back on. You notice, okay, we're talking about number 3, right? Airlock number 3. You notice conveniently the outer door for number 3 is missing because we accidentally deleted it because of mirroring. So this is station top. Let's see if, yeah, there we go. Station top, this is number 3 outer, right? Okay. So once I put the name in there, close, and it's closed. So we have now replaced the door. One of the last things we need to do, however, is if we turn this off, you'll notice it vanishes, but this one is not attached. So it's a left click, which then highlights, control click on the group, left click, do a save, and in this case we're talking about that particular piece, that particular block. Turn it off on the toolbar, turn it off in the terminal, and they all magically go away. Now, that door is right in front of us. It's hard to see, but let's go ahead and open everything and reclose everything to see that it is indeed attached to the group now. All right, so being as I screwed that one up, let's not do that on this side. So we're going to delete this block here, spin over to delete this block here, and then spin this around so it's facing the correct direction, and then we have recreated the symmetry, okay, which is exactly what we wanted. All right, the last thing I'm going to do that may or may not look neat is add these things in here, and we're going to go ahead and turn on mirroring again just to save myself some time. So we put them here, spin, and here and here. All right, now having done that, does this look silly? This this hexagonal corner, arguably in either direction. So it does look a little bit strange because there are no more hexagonals anywhere. So it does look a little bit odd. But I think, is there any hexagonal shapes there? Yeah, kind of. So I think just because we're going to leave that for now. So even though it is not really necessary, the only other thing that we could do is, and this is going to be a little bit interesting. Why not? This will change our symmetry again, but I think it will change it in a very positive way. So here's what I'm going to do. Of course, the problem is, I can't do that on this side. Okay, so here's the problem. These windows are mounted directly onto the elevator shaft, okay, which is to say there is an item right there. All right, let's now, this looks a little strange, but what just happened here? I had a singular mounting point for this set of windows. So when I took off that mounting point, then all these windows separate. So this is one of the things as you're building, you want to try and be intelligent in how you do it. So this is a Control X and delete. Now the other side did the same thing. It already actually butted up against over here. So this is the same thing. Control X and delete. Here's what I'm going to do. Because I want to change a few things, I'm going to change the way this side of the windows is mounted. Now, most of you are looking and saying, okay, you're going to totally hose yourself here. In fact, I won't. And the reason why is because all of these windows actually are using this outer, this outer 45, the corner block, the slope block, as its mount point. So every single one of those windows has actually got 6 mount points. And in fact, 9 mount points, because if you consider they are actually mounted to one another as well. So here's what we're going to do. Can we do this? Okay, this is either going to turn out really disastrous or it will work. But I want to change this to a regular block. And the reason why is I'm going to paste a 2x2 block. Sorry, a 2x3 window. So let's go ahead and change this. And I'm hoping, so this should be light armor block. There's the example. There's the example. My reticle was pointing at the conveyor junction. And in fact, let's prove that to be true. So Control 3 and 4. Let's go ahead and put this back in. Paste this back in. And I guess I can do it here. Okay, so let's look. Now, it's hard to see the block because I've got sunlight behind me, but the block that's highlighted in this case is this block here, right? The half slope block is what's highlighted. But now I'm pointing my reticle at the conveyor junction. Okay, what block is highlighted? The block that's highlighted as red is the half slope block. Okay? I'm going to press right click. Watch what is deleted. Okay? So, demonstration that things don't always work as they should. Okay, so having done that, we just proved that it is consistent. So then put a block here. The reason I put a block here, in fact, let's go one better. I'm going the wrong way. Let's put a slope here. Okay, so a slope. The reason I put the slope is that's still a mountable surface. Then we go to number 9, and I want to put in a half block here, right? Half block. Or sorry, a third window, right? So this is a 2x3 window, so it's a third smaller than that 3x3 window. So paste it in. Let me go ahead and figure out how to do that on this side as well. Oh, actually, there was a block there, so ooh, that totally screwed me up. So I need to turn off mirroring and fix this. Okay, so got rid of that. Now, here's the good news. So we can flip this off. The 2x3 window is offset. Or if you just think it chopped off that portion, so it's actually the same square on the 2x window as the 3x window if you think about things in terms of truncation. So here's what we're doing. Simple, because I can paste to the side of this. So basically we are creating this side thing in the very same way. All right. Here's what we're going to do, or here's what we're going to attempt to do. Does this help me at all? And nope, doesn't help me at all. I was thinking if I had blocks out here that I would actually be able to do something different, but it's not. Oh, I know what I can do. So here's how we can do this. So there's a light armor block, and we'll do this, and then a slope. Right? Bear with me. And let's go ahead and take this one. Take this one out as well. So here's a armor block, and a slope, which we don't really need here, but let's go ahead and put it in anyway. Now, what did that accomplish for us? Here's what ultimately this did for us. So we're going to be a little bit creative here, and it's going to be a little bit hard to see. So number 9, in my case, number 3 is a flat 1x1. So we're going to paste a 1x1 there, and we're going to paste a 1x1 here. Now, yes, that is absolutely useless. Understood. And then we're going to paste a 2x1. I just have to figure out where it is. There it is. So there's a 2x1, and then we'll put the 2x1 here. Okay, so now I have created windows on the back, and looky here, more importantly, I have created a place, and this is going to be a 2, where I can paste a window here. Okay, so there's my outer window mounted. So I gave my window a mount point. And then, which is where we were ultimately going with all this, let me change my colors to black. Our armor slope, which is bling, bling, bling. All right. So I think that is a much improved look. I really do. All right. So let's do the same thing here. We're going to rotate. We're going to go ahead and delete that particular piece, and because all of these guys are mounted to the elevator shaft, then we don't have to worry about that. So we'll spin this around to the correct way and remount. Oh, that's a black. So we'll go ahead and change colors here and color that the correct color. There we go. So that one's fixed. We're going to do the same thing here, just to match the other side, which is really to say we're going to do a 1 at the bottom. So what I have to do is turn this around. There we go. And we're going to put that in there. We're going to put the other one right here. And then on top of that, we're going to put the dual pane, so the 2x1. And again, in a different place. So of course my rotational keys change. And that goes there. And this one is going to go here. Now, one of the things you notice, I'm trying to line this up so its mount point is the glass under it. Now, I could use the outer mount point, which would be fine. All right. Now, in this case, we need a 2 window that goes here, right? Simple, simple. Bing. There it is. And then we change colors again, back to our black. We will go to a number 1. We already have our pieces there, so it is a pink, pink, pink. There we go. All right. Now the only other thing that we have to do is fix this side, which is a little more challenging because I can't see a darn thing. And we will delete this. We will go ahead and rotate this around to be the correct way. We go there, there, and there. The windows are already in behind with no issues at all. So all we need to do now is paste this double window right in there. Pasted. And change the color because I screwed that up. All right, so bring up a number 2 again, and darn it, that's not what I wanted to do. All right, there it is. Pasted. All right, so even though this looks a little bit dark and gloomy, if we get back a little ways, we can see all the orange inside, so it really is still tiger orange. All right, the last thing we need to do is repaste the glass on the outside. So we're going to flip this around to be the correct way. We're actually going to put that in. So we're going to have the mount point be that piece of glass. I'm going to left click and then go upwards. All the way to the top. Down just a little so I don't paste an extra piece of glass. There we go. All right. So all the glass has now been replaced, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Now, theoretically, if we were to chop this particular piece off, we would be able to reattach it to the outside. So if I chop this off right here, which is what I'm intending to do, and then take this and paste it onto the top, I should be able to do that. Whoops, I have glass missing. Glass missing. Easy remedy. Glass missing. Highlight. And then go up to the top. There we are. 0. Okay, glass replaced. Now, here's one of the other problems, which is going to be interesting to remedy, is that the tiger orange changed. Okay, so I'm going to have to re-highlight everything to change the new tiger orange. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. But I am now over to the next hour So, and my patented style, I've run over time again. I'm not going to continue going. I'm going to sign off here, and we'll let you continue on with your life. So, this is Kenty Tiger signing off. We'll see you next time.